Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Salebox for the 14th of July 2013. My name is TotalBiscuit with today's daily Steam deals. As always, the deals go on for 48 hours. That means that yesterday's deals are still available. Do check out yesterday's Salebox for an assessment of what to pick up. Let's kick it off, shall we, with Kerbal Space Program. 40% off, taking it down to $13.79, €13.19, £10.79. As always, I won't give you the Australian price if it's the same as the US price. There are a couple of instances where that is not the case. Okay, so Kerbal Space Program is a game about sending little Kerbals into space, as you might imagine. It's a pretty cool concept, honestly. You build your own rocket, and you essentially set your own goals. The game isn't done yet. Not yet. It's definitely complete enough to play if you want to mess around with it, but it's not finished. What I will say as well is that the next patch is likely to break the save games, so do bear that in mind. Possibly you might want to just pick it up and then maybe wait until it actually gets patched in the first place. Is it fun though? Yeah, it's actually a bunch of fun, surprisingly enough. It's easy enough to get into, but hard to master, and there are a metric ton of mods available for the game already. So you can do stuff like, you can send your Kerbals into space for an orbit, you can send them to the moon, you can set up a space station, and all sorts of things like that if you download the appropriate mods. And building the rocket itself is, of course, also very, very enjoyable, as is blowing up the Kerbals, which is what I spent most of my time doing in the early alpha. Regardless, it is not finished, but this is a good price for it nonetheless, and this is a very popular game for a very good reason, because there just really isn't anything quite like it. Arma 2, 66% off, taking it down to $8.70, €6.69, £5.35. The reason that people were buying this game a while ago was because of the ability to play the DayZ mod. That is now becoming a standalone, so it will not actually require this. It is, however, still a very fun milsim. It's actually pretty cool if you can find the right people to play it with, and it is very much a realistic military simulator. However, Arma 3 is on its way, so it seems a little weird to pick this up now with Arma 3 being so close. You can get access to Arma 3 just by pre-ordering the game. That will actually get you into the beta. And by all accounts, it is a significant improvement on Arma 2, so it's a little bit weird to say to people, buy Arma now. The single player is kind of lackluster to the point where I'd suggest that the only time it's really worth playing Arma 2 is if you do have a group of people to actually actively play it with. If you don't, then this might be something to avoid, and DayZ at this point is quite frankly racked with hackers and everybody's waiting for the standalone, so something you might want to avoid at this point. Total War Shogun 2, 75% off, taking it down to $7.49, €7.49, £6.24. The Australians get shafted at $10. Definitely one of the better Total War games as far as I'm concerned, a much more complete experience, far less buggy as well, which is always nice. And as far as I'm concerned, it's second only to Medieval 2, but that's my personal preference. It is a ton of fun to play. It's one of the easier, grand-ish strategies, and it focuses on real-time battles with turn-based empire management. The actual empire management itself is fairly light, because the game focuses, for the most part, on the combat. The Total War Shogun 2 collection is also available, and the expansion pack, which was Fall of the Samurai, is also 75% off. Personally, I prefer the base game simply because Fall of the Samurai is based in that kind of time when there's an awful lot more guns, and as far as I'm concerned, Total War gets very boring as soon as people start standing in lines and shooting at each other. Regardless, though, an absolutely fantastic title. Portal 2, 75% off, $5, €5 or €3.74 in Tier 2, as well as £3.74. Pretty sure everyone knows what this is all about, the first-person puzzle game. If you don't already own Portal 2 and you have even the slightest interest in first-person puzzling, then you should probably own Portal 2. Stop being silly, go get Portal 2, come on. Silly, silly people. Personally, I can't stand the bloody thing, but that's for the most part because I hate puzzle games, and Portal 2 is no exception. Absolutely not. Sanctum 2, 50% off, taking it down to $7.49, €6.99, £5.99. This is the fairly iterative sequel to Sanctum, which was the first-person tower defense game by Coffee Cup, which is a good game, don't get me wrong. The problem, I suppose, with Sanctum 2 is very much the fact that it didn't really do much. It was not a massive advancement on the previous one. It is very much an iterative sequel. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but I think some people did expect a little bit more out of it. The one thing I would say is that this game is very co-op focused, as opposed to the original, which could also really be played in single player in a big way. So there has been a mixed reaction from the community when it comes to this particular title, I have to say. If you didn't play the original, you're probably going to like this a lot. If you did play the original, then it's split right down the middle as regards to whether or not you actually will enjoy it. Personally, I liked it quite a bit, but I didn't play a huge amount of the original game, so yeah, something to bear in mind. It would also appear that there is some kind of downvoting or Metacritic bombing campaign on this game where a bunch of people are giving it zeros, which is a little bit strange to say the least. I like it, but I don't think I've really played either of them enough to really gain a grasp as to whether or not there is actually something significantly mechanically wrong with it. So personally, this is something that I'd definitely look up on the forums and see why it is that people reacted so violently to the changes. Hitman Absolution, 75% off, takes it down to $6.24, €6.24, and £4.99. Okay, so this is not a bad Hitman game. It's just by no means as good as Blood Money, as far as I'm concerned. The main problem that this game has is that it's very much an A to B kind of title, whereas the previous Hitman games kind of weren't. Usually you have something of a playground in a Hitman game. In this game, it's more a case of make your way from A to B and do some stuff in the process. In Blood Money, it was more a case of here's a level, figure it out for yourself. Now, a lot of Hitman fans disliked Absolution as a direct result of that. I still think it's got a really solid combat and stealth system, don't get me wrong. I just feel that the actual level design and the creativity involved in it is significantly weaker. Also, the disguise system is a tad odd, I have to say. Admittedly, it was pretty overpowered in the previous Hitman games. So, Absolution is a good bet if you haven't played a Hitman game before. At that point, I would go back to Blood Money after you've beaten Absolution, because I think you'll find the spirit of the Hitman games is very much in that title as opposed to in Absolution. But, in its own right, Absolution is a good solid title. I just don't think it's that good of a Hitman game. Sims 3, 50% off, takes it down to $15 at €22.49. Wow, £15 and 20 Aussie dollars. Okay, if you are in the US, do not buy this on Steam. The reason I say this is because Origin has it a boatload cheaper. A huge amount cheaper. I'm talking $5, yeah, versus $15, which, as far as I'm concerned, is definitely a good reason to pick it up on Origin and not pick it up on Steam. That's a huge saving. Most of the expansions are also significantly discounted right now on Origin. This is not, however, the case in Europe. Admittedly, the European price is already ridiculous anyway, so I guess you're not really missing out on much. You don't really need my advice on The Sims, quite frankly. It's a nice little time sink for those of you that like light management games, because that's exactly what The Sims really is. $5 on Origin is a ludicrously low price for it. Like, that's even a price where it's, say, you know what, if you've never tried The Sims before, give it a bash. It is actually fun for a while. I've played all 3 Sims games, and I played them for like 2 days. I spent a lot of time with them, and then I just abandoned them completely because they just don't have the depth that I'm really looking for. But regardless, they're not bad by any stretch of the imagination. The main problem is that you have to pay through your nose for all of the expansion packs. Most of those are 50% off, some are 25%, and I mean, I'm talking like $40 expansion packs for this game, so yeah, it's a little bit pricey. Getting all of the DLC on Steam right now will cost you $234, so yeah, you're not exactly in for a bargain there, are you? Remember Me, 40% off, takes it down to $30 at €23.99, £18. I don't think so, not for that price. It is a game that, as far as I'm concerned, has a great setting and some interesting ideas that are not very well implemented. Has a fairly weak combat system, it is extremely linear, it claims the ability to explore Neo-Paris and yet has nothing of the sort. It holds your hand throughout the entire game, and the most interesting parts of the game are the memory remix segments that only happen a handful of times throughout the title. There's basically no replayability whatsoever, so I'm gonna say avoid at that price. Yeah, wait till it gets a heck of a lot cheaper before you invest in it. I hate saying that about original IP, I really do, but the game's just not that good. I'm sorry, it's not. Great ideas, lousy execution. Eador, Masters of the Broken World. 40% off, takes it down to $12 €11.39 and £8.99. The main problem this game had on launch is that it was rushed and it was very buggy indeed. Now, since then, some of that has been resolved to the point where it might very well be worth trying. A lot of stuff got fixed, and as a direct result, it's actually a pretty charming strategy game if you like stuff like King's Bounty, Heroes of Might and Magic, and of course stuff like Age of Wonders. It's along those kind of lines. The tactical combat is very much like Heroes of Might and Magic, though it is hex-based, so it's a little bit more like Home 4, more so than anything else. It's graphically fairly impressive, and the only real problem that I had with the game was the really bad interface. Like, it was designed by an ape, I have to assume. It is not particularly good whatsoever. It doesn't do a particularly good job of explaining what's going on, so you do need to try and figure out the game and the tech tree going forward, because you can't really rely on the game to properly display that information. If you can get past that, it is actually very rewarding indeed. The question is, do you have the patience for it? And going on to our deal of the day, which has got to be Fallout New Vegas. 75% off, $2.49, €2.49, £2.49, and the Aussies get slightly screwed at $3.74. Oh god, how cool a game is this. Like pretty much every Obsidian game, it came out fairly buggy, though those bugs have been nicely reined in. Fallout New Vegas versus Fallout 3. Fallout New Vegas is a better game. I'm just gonna flat out say that. As usual, Bethesda builds a more interesting looking world, and Fallout New Vegas then proceeds to piss all over it with excellent writing, great quests, interesting characters, and quite frankly, just a wider selection of everything. Fallout 3 is still good, don't get me wrong. I still think New Vegas is a way better game than that though, and I think you'll find it an awful lot more enjoyable. The Ultimate Edition is packed with content. Some of it's good, some of it's not. Old World Blues is really good. Dead Money and Honest Hearts, not so much. You can save a little bit of money picking them up by grabbing the Ultimate Edition. Fallout 3, still a very good game. Don't get me wrong, especially with the DLC. The Game of the Year edition is packed full of content. There's 5 DLC expansions. Some of them are okay, some of them are not. Anchorage isn't that great. The Pit's pretty good. Broken Steel is fantastic. Point Lookout's okay. And Mothership Zeta is kind of so-so. What I would say is that they are both very much worthwhile. I think you'd probably appreciate Fallout New Vegas a little bit more after you've played Fallout 3, so if you grab neither of them, now will be the time to grab both. I still feel, however, that Vegas is the superior title. Alright folks, that wraps me up for the day. Thank you very much for watching the Salebox. I'll be back hopefully earlier tomorrow with yet more Steam deals. I'll see you next time.